Splash photography. Splash photography, the genre, is informational text, and that gives facts about a topic. And let's see what our text focus in splash photography will be. A diagram. A diagram shows how something works. It uses labels to point out important parts of a diagram. So we are going to look at a diagram today in splash photography and see the labels that it uses to point out important parts. Splash photography. Smile. How could you take a picture of a fish swimming underwater? You would have to use special equipment or tools. People use underwater photography or taking pictures for different reasons. A scientist might want to learn more about sharks. Some people like it just because they think it's fun. Some people like it just because they think it is fun. Underwater dress. And this, just like smile, underwater dress, these are headings. To take pictures in deep water, a photographer uses a scuba tank or air tank to breathe. An underwater photographer also must take lessons to use a scuba tank. An underwater photographer also wears a mask and swim fins. It is a good idea to wear a rubber suit called a wetsuit. These suits help to keep a person warm and safe from stinging animals. Stinging animals. Sounds like something we've read about. And our last heading, using the right tools. An underwater photographer uses a special camera to take pictures. The camera is made to keep out water. There are other helpful tools too. Some tools can be used to light up a dark place. Other tools help to get a closer look at a fish swimming by. Do you think that you would want to be an underwater photographer? Does that sound like a job that would be interesting to you? Going down into the ocean and taking pictures of animals that live in the ocean? Fish or maybe a coral reef? You would get to use special tools and equipment. Now, we are going to look at our diagram. Remember, a diagram, this is the bold word right here, a diagram shows how something works. Labels, you have used labels before. Labels point out important parts of a diagram. I know that in first grade writing, you learn to use labels to point out important parts in your writing or your writing pictures. So let's look at the diagram right here. The diagram is pointing out the important parts of the underwater photographer and all the special tools that he uses. You can see arrows pointing from each bubble. Well, not an arrow, but a line with a bubble that's meant to represent an arrow, pointing to each one. These are the labels to help show this diagram. It's showing how the underwater photographer works with all of his equipment. So we have the camera. A special camera is used underwater. It's right here. That is a very large camera. Looks like we can see the little lamps right here that he might use to light up dark places. I wonder how heavy that is. We have scuba tank. This tank holds the air for breathing underwater. That sounds really important, don't to me. This right here, the scuba tank, it holds the air. So when he's down under the water, that is what is helping him breathe. Wetsuit. This suit keeps a photographer safe and warm. That's also really important. Not as important as breathing, but if you need to be kept warm because some of the water is going to be very cold, that's very important too. And safe from stinging animals. So it looks like it covers his whole body up to his head. And then we have swim fins. A photographer wears fins to swim better. And I remember having a discussion in one of my reading groups where we talked about also calling them flippers. Maybe you have worn these in a pool before, or maybe the ocean. Yes, but they can help you swim better. So maybe if you have worn them in a pool before, or the ocean, or a lake, scuba divers or underwater photographers wear these too. It really does help you swim better. So we just looked at a diagram and the labels because a diagram shows how something works. So this kind of showed us how underwater photography works because it showed us all the important parts that an underwater photographer uses to help him be successful when he's down there. His camera, his scuba tank, wetsuit, and swim fins. So, would you want to be an underwater photographer?